Okay, so it's time for our final segment, which I will let Donald Trump say.
The world is a mess. The world is as angry as it gets.
Okay, so this new segment is just general updates on stories I've covered in the past or stories that I wish I could cover. It's just random stories that come to my mind. I write them down. I'm like, I want to cover it, but I'm not able to cover it in the show. So this is a new segment. I love the name. I love the title. It was one of my favorite memes from the Trump presidency, the former Trump presidency, I guess. And let's start out with actually Donald John Trump. So Donald Trump has had a very bad week. Honestly, a very bad month. Frankly, a very bad year. But really, Donald Trump, according to the Washington Post, I believe, Donald Trump thinks he will be reinstated as president in August. Sorry, not the Washington Post. Maggie Haberman from the New York Times. I remember that right now. So Trump, it really shows that Trump drank the Kool-Aid from QAnon himself, which is kind of crazy to think about. But because I almost always thought that Donald Trump really didn't believe what he was saying, but he was, I know I use this term a lot, but that he was grifting in order to get money to pay off his campaign debts. Seems like that's not actually the case. Well, it's probably also the case, but Trump actually does believe that he will be reinstated in August. Of course, My Pillow CEO, Mike Lindell, has pushed this for months. He's been canceled, as he says. He tried to start his own social media site, and this site eventually flopped very badly, just like Donald Trump's own site that he started recently. He actually just recently took it down after 29 days. You may not remember it. It was From the Desk of Donald Trump, basically Twitter, but even sadder, kind of blog spot, frankly. And this Trump blog was taken down because it had a very small engagement. The other important thing to note is that Donald Trump is sort of floundering right now. He may or may not go into 2022. He may or may not, he's not going to go to prison, but there's a huge criminal investigation opened up by New York AG Letitia James. So, that's actually a good segue into the New York City mayoral race, which new Emerson polling is showing that Catherine Garcia is leading in the New York City mayoral race after being endorsed by the New York Times. So what does this mean? So the big thing is that Catherine Garcia leading because she was endorsed by the New York Times, that's huge. Because there was a lot of discussion about the fact that the New York Times endorsement doesn't mean anything, but it in fact absolutely does. And it means something, especially in New York politics, where people aren't really paying that much attention. So Catherine Garcia, who is she's not a progressive, but she's at least to the left of like Eric Adams. She is leading, but she's also leading in head-to-head polling with Eric Adams, who is number 2 on the list. Andrew Yang, who was supposed to be the front runner, is trailing in 3rd. Again, this is not because of the Israel-Palestine thing. This is because of a variety of different things that have been occurring with Andrew Yang recently. But a major one, in my opinion, is the fact that, like, there was a debate and people saw other people in the debate. So, New York voters just kind of left Andrew Yang because he had primarily soft support. So, Catherine Garcia, Eric Adams, Andrew Yang, all 3 are in the front. Let me be clear. Emerson polling is not that great. I remember in the primary it was kind of off in a lot of places. But Emerson polling shows that Catherine Garcia is ahead. Something very weird is that Scott Stringer just fell off the face of the earth. Primarily because of the sexual assault allegations that had come from, I believe, a staffer. And not only that, you have Diane Morales, who was supposed to be this progressive star. I don't think I really ever supported her. But I probably was looking more towards her than anyone else because, of course, I think I probably saw her first on Twitter. Of course, always a bad idea to look at Twitter for, politics. So, Diane Morales is a progressive star, but she seems to have ties to charter schools and also yet a huge campaign shakeup. I think Ryan Grimm had a good write-up on this, where he basically mentions that campaign shakeups like this are almost always in bad faith, and they are almost always silly. But even when that happens, Diane Morales is still having her own issues in that campaign. So the New York City mayoral race has been tossed up yet again, and we still don't know who's going to win. I'm not a good predictor, but I predict Eric Adams wins. But if it's not Eric Adams, I actually do still think Andrew Yang would win. But maybe Catherine Garcia pulls ahead. Finally, Not finally. There's another story. Didn't see it. Actually, let's start with that one. There is a Mexican legislative election coming up. AMLO's coalition, which is called Juntos Hacemos Historia, which is actually, what that means together, we make history. It's actually a remake of an old coalition called Juntos Haremos Historia, which sounds similar, but if you speak Spanish, haremos is the future tense of hacer, which means together we will make history, but then he won, and then now it's Juntos Hacemos Historia, kind of funny to me. He's slated to win an even larger majority than he did in 2018. Now, AMLO, frankly, he handled COVID poorly. He was not a great leader for Mexico, but as a populist, you blame other people and you come out on top. So AMLO seems as if he might win. By the way, even if AMLO isn't good, let's be very clear, the PRI also isn't great in Mexico. That being said, AMLO is probably going to win a large majority in the coming elections. I think they're also on June 6th, like the Peruvian elections. Finally, an interesting one from Arizona. Not great, but it's been making the rounds. Arizona is using hydrogen cyanide to execute prisoners. For those who don't know, the hydrogen cyanide is sometimes known as Zyklon B. Zyklon B was used, of course, during the Holocaust. So you have this very dystopian picture where Arizonan police officers, Arizonan correctional facilities are checking whether their gas chambers work, which is not something we want to see in America. But Arizona hasn't executed someone since 2014. They stopped executions after the botched execution of James Wood. I mean, I guess he died, so it wasn't that botched. But it was botched in the sense that it took 2 hours and 15 injections until he was murdered. Or until he was killed. Until he died. I'm trying to think of how to word that, but I guess you can say until he was executed. Okay. So the death penalty is bad. Of course, I've mentioned that multiple times, maybe not on the program, but if you know me and you know my advocacy, I have been against the death penalty for a bit. So of course, this just shows the cartoonish levels to which the death penalty is just completely insane inside, not just Arizona, but the United States writ large. Okay, next week, we will talk about the Supreme Court and abortion, hopefully. I've put that one off for quite a bit. And I think we will also dissect H.R. 1 and the Biden administration's push to pass it, which is being blocked by Republicans and, importantly, moderate Democrats in the Senate. I'm probably not going to touch a filibuster. I might not. I don't really like talking about a filibuster. Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at @RealRaymondPerez, on Twitter at @RealRPerez for more political content. Of course, you can go to linktr.ee/RaymondPerez. Great stuff there. You'll never miss an episode of In Progress if you do that. You can, of course, watch In Progress with Raymond Perez wherever you get your podcasts, or on YouTube. You can follow me on YouTube, subscribe on YouTube, including Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Radio Public, and Pocket Casts. We're looking very strongly at Apple Podcasts. We're looking very strongly at Apple. I will be there next week if you will. And remember, the change we need to see is always in progress. Thank you for watching.